You, for Hugo, Scorsese's Hugo, you went deep in the kitchen of a genius of visual effects. And how this experience to study the technique of the past have been useful for you for nowadays, and also if you can mention this matte technique that were used in the past, that is the ancestor of green screen.
Okay, the Williams process. Well, I think what's really interesting about Georges Méliès is this idea that when he discovered his technique of the substitution splice, which means that his camera jammed and he had to rethread it and the scene changed and he got the idea through an accident, that he could use that as a technique for visual effects. We have what's called the happy accident, and I think today the lesson is to be open to things that you might not think have gone correctly, but you can use. You can turn it into an advantage. Sometimes things happen that aren't planned for, that open you up to new possibilities, and that's sort of what Méliès taught us, inventing really visual effects through this discovery that was serendipitous. And so I look for a serendipity as well. We should always look for that. It's harder to do on the computer because the computer is very planned out. It has to be very exact. But occasionally you still have opportunities to take advantage of mistakes. And while that may seem like a conflict, that's actually an advantage.
About this ancestor of green screen, technically, is something really pretty strange that if we can compare to digital technique of nowadays.
Yeah, well, you're referring to the Williams process, and I showed some scenes from Sunrise, which showed examples of it. Basically, the visual effect technique at its core is that you want to take your actors or your characters and from one scene and place them over another scene, combine different pieces of film together. So the Williams process is an early example of what we call traveling matte, which means that the shape of the person walking or talking is articulated so that it looks like it seamlessly belongs into the next scene. And we get into the weeds here with the characteristic of the edge. You know, is the blend soft or hard? Does it look like the light is wrapping around the character because there's light behind them? These are all tools that have been developed over time to make that integration look realistic. And its origins are in the Williams process, where they had some more of a stencil, and it was a little more complicated to make it believable, but it was so new and it was such an advantage to visual effects technology that was needed further development and has developed over the years to be very realistic in its application.
Last question. Do you think that this, for a young guy that wanted to start to work in visual effects field, could be very useful to watch visual effects of the past, of the origin?
Yeah, I think I've always been interested to learn about the origins because it does overlap in what you're doing, and it allows you to understand what were the problems that needed to be solved back in that era. They're not all that different than what we're trying to solve today. I would encourage young people, because the technology is there, to make movies. Just make movies that have vision and bring a sense of your own self and personality to the idea of the film, and hopefully create some imagery that is compelling to an audience. That's what we're trying to do, is tell stories. When it really comes down to it, visual effects is about storytelling, and so the technology really is accessible to almost everybody today. So experiment, see things that you like, maybe think about how you would do it differently, or maybe interpret it in the way that you would like to interpret something that you see, and create a vocabulary of your own personality and artistic ability. And I think there is a great future for using that approach to making films.
So, Mr. Barron, thank you very much. Happy again to see you here at Giornate, and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.